Hello, welcome back. Happy New Year. I'm Sarah Buino and the host of Conversations with a Wounded Healer. I took some time off in December, took a little break, and I'm now getting back in the swing of things for the podcast. I'm recording this on New Year's Day, so it feels really, really fresh. 2018 was a dumpster fire of a year for me, and in 2019, I just have so much hope and optimism, and I just feel like I can do anything this year. And from the looks of, my Instagram and Facebook feeds, it sounds like a lot of people are vibing on that same wavelength with me, that we all were like, fuck you, 2018 and 2019. It can absolutely only be better. So I wanted to just kind of take a minute and reflect on, it's almost been a year that I've been doing the podcast. I started in March last year in 2018, and just kind of wanted to reflect on some of the things that I've learned over the past year through the podcast and some of the intentions that I'm setting for the year ahead. So as I was writing things down, the first thing that came to me for what I've learned from the podcast is so much love. There is an absolute abundance of love in this world. And this podcast has been a really great opportunity for me to connect with other people who experience that love, believe in that love, and live from that place of love. And that this has just been such a great opportunity to just, I've fallen in love with all of my guests over the last year, and I've made some new great friends, people I never would have had a reason to talk to before. So that's just been a really cool lesson that I've learned this year, is that there's an abundance of love. Another thing is there are just so many people out there really believing the things that I believe about the world and doing their best to make a positive impact. And it's so great. I felt this really intense common humanity experience this year of really believing in my bones in a different way, that we're all suffering and that we're all doing the best that we can. And the people that I've talked to who are also really kind of on, I'd probably say on the front lines, trying to fight the fight out there. I'm just so happy to have met these people and to have them in my life. I mean, at the end of the year, I was texting some people just to thank them for being in my life. And a lot of them were new friends via the podcast who we share this experience of common humanity. So that's awesome. Let's see, what else did I have? I learned that anyone can be a healer. I started off the podcast with the idea of only interviewing therapists, and quickly realized that that was a really narrow vision. And I wanted to expand that really quickly. And anyone can be a healer. You don't even have to actually be in a caregiving profession, even though that is who I'm targeting with my interviewees. But you can be healing just being a caring person, in the office with your friend, or, you can just be a caring person walking down the street, and that can be healing to somebody and you don't even know it. So I invite you to really think about, in what ways are you a healer? Whether or not you're a therapist or any sort of caregiver, in what ways are you injecting healing into the world? So just think about that. And then the last lesson I think I learned is that our culture is starving for authenticity. I have gotten so many positive messages from people who are listening, and it's so, and this is part of my childhood attachment stuff. Part of it is, so validating when somebody is really picking up what I'm putting down, but it's also just telling me because this is not about me. I'm just kind of a mouthpiece and a conduit for sharing authenticity and trying to lead by example. And the people that have written to me, thanking me for my vulnerability and authenticity, I just can tell we're starving for it. The older I get and the more I learn about the world, the more scared that I get sometimes, and worry about the lack of connection and all of that. But the podcast has really taught me that there are enough of us out there who are hungry for this, thirsty for it, and striving for it, that I think as a human race, we're actually on the right path, more so than we're not. So those are wonderful lessons to have learned this year. and my intentions for the podcast. So I wrote down a couple intentions. I obviously want to continue with the authenticity that I started with. I mean, I don't think I can be any other way. I've said that probably about a million times on here already. I don't know how to not just show up with my full self. So I don't think that one is going to be a problem. I want to expand the audience this year. And I say that, I'm always really trying to think about, what's my motivation for things. And of course, I have this fear that there is a huge part of me that just, wants to be recognized and, wants validation and recognition and all that kind of stuff. And I think the desire to broaden the audience doesn't really come from a place of listen to my voice, listen to what I say, but just that I feel like I've done a really good job finding people who have great messages. And I want as many people to hear that message as possible. So one of my goals for 2019 is to expand the audience of the podcast. And one of the ways that you can help with that, well, a couple ways actually you can help with that. One way is, obviously sharing the podcast with friends and family. And I know for those of you who listen, a lot of you already do that. And I just appreciate you to the bottom of my heart. But also you can tell me who you want me to interview. If you know of somebody in your circle or your community who's doing amazing work, I'd love to know them. I would love to have a conversation with them and figure out if they are a good fit for being a guest on the show. So that's a way that you can help me help you. Thank you. And then my last intention for the podcast this year is to find a way to create more collaboration. I don't know if you know this. I've said this maybe a couple times before, but this podcast is not cheap. I have made zero money off of it. I actually spend a pretty penny each month to get this out because good editing is very important to me, and Andrea Klunder is absolutely incredible. And I want to find a way to not necessarily make money out of this, but find connections and collaborations that happen as a result of the podcast. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is reaching out to some of my previous podcast guests and then maybe going to where they live and having some sort of collaborative, group therapy, or, Jordan and I have talked about doing a tarot therapy sort of thing. Just finding a way to create more collaboration and personal contact. I think, it's easy for me to sit in my closet and tell you all these things and, get the positive feedback or whatever. But how cool would it be if we got to find a way to meet in person? OMG. So just think about that. If you have any ideas for that, I would really love to hear them. And finally, I was upstairs in my house and was like, I'm going to pull my tarot cards for 2019. I set out my crystals, I burned some incense and candles, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to see what 2019 has in store. And as I started reading all the cards, motherfucker, I pulled 2018. Literally every month, every message was exactly what happened in 2018. And I was like, well, fuck you, tarot gods. Why don't I get to know the future? And I thought to myself, well, maybe I don't need to know what's in store. Maybe this is part of having faith and trusting that I'm back on my path and that things are going to unfold as they're supposed to. But of course, I pulled a card for the podcast. And as I was shuffling the cards, I said, what is the message, or what is the theme? What do I need to know about conversations with a wounded healer for 2019? And the card I got was the 10 of Pentacles. And when I don't know all the cards yet, Jordan really helps me out with all that, but I still don't know all of them. But when I looked it up in the book, the 10 of Pentacles is the money card. And I'm like, what? So money, wealth, and then also this idea of maturity, not only financially, but emotionally. So I wanted to kind of add that to my intention this year. So I guess two of those things. One being, let's set the intention that this is actually going to make some money, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting to make money doing something that you love, right? So I'm just going to put that out there and say, Conversations with the Wounded Healer is going to make me some money this year. I'm going to say that. And then lastly, I think, the experiences that I've had this year with the podcast, I feel like it's helped me grow emotionally as a person. And I would like for the podcast to mature and grow emotionally as well. So I'm also going to put that out there, that intention that we are going to grow together this year. So With that, I will wish you all the happiest of New Year's. Goodbye, dumpster fire of 2018. And I wish everyone peace, wealth, prosperity, hope, joy, love, all of the things that we want to welcome in for this year. So thank you for joining me. And thanks as always to Andrea Klunder and Edwin Ruiz at the Creative Imposter Studios for their amazing editing. Thank you, Liam O'Donnell, for the album art photo that I just adore so much, and to Ben Mueller for the theme music. As always, you know where to find me, www.headhearttherapy.com/podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Thanks so much. Till later. Bye-bye.